Many headlines are showing the Campi Flegrei volcano is edging closer to possible eruption. Now, this is because of new research coming out from the supervolcano. The Campi Flegrei volcano in southern Italy has become weaker and more prone to rupturing. That's bad news, making an eruption more likely. According to a new study by researchers at UCL, the University College in London, and Italy's National Research Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology. The volcano, which last erupted in 1538, has been restless for more than 70 years, with 2-year spikes of unrest in the 1950s, the 1970s, and the 1980s, and a slower phase of unrest over the last decade. Tens of thousands of small earthquakes have occurred during these periods, and the coastal town of Pozzuoli has been lifted nearly 4 meters. That's 13 feet, roughly the height of a double-decker bus. And that might mean boom time is coming soon. Now, the new study published June 9th in Nature Communications, an Earth and Environmental Journal, used a model of volcano fracturing developed at UCL to interpret the pattern of earthquakes and ground uplift, and concluded that parts of the volcano have been stretched, well, to the breaking point. And here you can see that in this graphic. Now, Campi Flegrei is also known as the Flegrei Fields. It's a large volcanic area situated to the west of Naples, and we show that on the incoming map here. It's considered a supervolcano due to the nature and history of its eruptions and its large caldera system. This caldera was formed 39,000 years ago in an eruption that was one of the largest in the history of Europe. Its eruption ejected so much material that it led to a volcanic winter, drastically affecting life across the planet. Now, hopefully we don't expect an eruption like this to be coming anytime soon. Now, this type of study is the first of its kind to forecast rupture at an active volcano. It marks a steep change in our goal to improve forecasts of eruptions worldwide. Dr. Niccolo Alessandro Pino from the Vesuvius Observatory, which represents the INGV in Naples, said, "Our research shows that parts of the volcano are becoming weaker. This means that it might break, even through the stresses pulling it apart, or even smaller than when they were during the last crisis 40 years ago." And that's because the uplift has been continuous and is cumulative. So at some point, this cap rock will reach critical fracture point, and there may, in fact, be a boom, because magma is now 2000 to 2022 building right under that cap. Now, the bad news is Campi Flegrei is the closest active volcano to London. It's not an obvious volcano because instead of growing into the traditional mountain, it's just a flat area in Italy. It's just a gentle depression, 12 to 14 kilometers across, and thus known as a caldera. This explains why 360,000 people now live on its roof. For the past decade, the ground below Pozzuoli has been creeping upward about 10 centimeters or 4 inches a year, and that is a quite significant amount. Persistent small earthquakes have also been registered for the first time since the mid-1980s. More than 600 were reported in April alone, the largest monthly number so far ever. The disturbance has been caused by the movement of fluids about 3 kilometers or 2 miles beneath the surface. Some of the fluids may have been molten rock or even magma, and some may be natural volcanic gases interacting with, perhaps, the groundwater. The latest phase of unrest appears likely to be caused by magmatic gas that is seeping into gaps in the rock, filling the 3-kilometer thick crust like a sponge. Now, the earthquakes occur when faults slip due to the stretching of the crust. The pattern of earthquakes from 2020 suggests the rock is responding in an inelastic way by breaking rather than bending. Dr. Stefan Danzi from the INGV Bologna said, "We cannot see what is happening underground. Instead, we have to decipher the clues the volcanic gas gives us, such as earthquakes and uplift of the ground." In their paper, the team explained that the effect of the unrest since the 1950s is cumulative, meaning an eventual eruption could be preceded by relatively weak signals, such as a smaller rate of ground uplift and fewer earthquakes. This was the case for the eruption of Rabaul caldera in Papua New Guinea in 1994, which was preceded by small earthquakes occurring at a tenth of the rate that occurred during a crisis decades earlier. Now, Campi Flegrei's current tensile strength, which is the maximum stress a material can bear before breaking when it's stretched, is likely to be about a third of what it was in 1984, according to the researchers. The team emphasized that an eruption is not inevitable, when Diamond says that, yeah, it is. This is an active volcano and it will erupt again. But Dr. Stefan Carlino from the Vesuvius Observatory explained, it's the same for all volcanoes that have been quiet for generations. Campi Flegrei may settle into a new routine of gentle rising and subsiding as seen in other similar volcanoes around the world, or simply return to rest. But currently, the evidence is suggesting that it may erupt, and we can't say for sure what will happen. The important point is to be prepared for all outcomes. And I agree, and you should too. There is very significant uplift, and in recent 2 decades, there has been magma being placed underneath of the caldera. And here is the last major seismic swarm was in March of 2022, but we're still getting activity today. Here is just the last week. So still lots of earthquakes, and they're increasing and larger in magnitude over the last few days. Now, the good news is that the supervolcanic eruptions from Campi Flegrei happened 36,000 years ago, and also another large event 15,000 years ago. But the eruptive history since then has been less spectacular, and that's good news for us and everyone living in the caldera. If this volcano erupts, there will be many lives lost. That's a fact, because it probably won't have much warning, according to the new paper. Maybe just a few days or weeks, and some people won't believe it. But in 1538, the volcano erupted at VEI3, and it erupted at VEI4 in 1650 BC, 1870 BC, VEI4, 2000 BC at VEI4, and 2150 BC at VEI5. So this volcano, even when it's not super volcanic, can provide, well, a big boom. And that is a boom to knowledge. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Share this with like-minded people. And be prepared, not scared. We love you. Please share this video. Be safe.